1.5.10. Correct? If you want, we can save it, share it on Vedabase. अगर आप चाहें तो वो भी कर सकते हैं.
Yes, Mataji.
न यद्वचस् चित्रपदम्
नायद्वचाश्चित्रपदम्
हरेर्यशो
हरेर्यशो
जगत् पवित्रम्
जगत् पवित्रम्
प्रोग्रता
प्रोग्रता
करहि चित्त
करहि चित्त
वायसुं तीर्थम् उषणी.
Mataji, it is something as tad vyasam.
Not Vyasam, Vayasam.
Okay. Vayasam tirthanam
Ushanti
ushanti
Manasana Yatra Hamsa
manasana yatra hamsa
Niramanti
nirmanti
Ushyayaha
ukshyaha
Ushikshayaha.
ushikshaya.
Yeah. So, I think I'll change my specs. Give me a minute.
हरे कृष्णा, मेरे को वर्ड्स बता दो प्लीज.
1.5.10 Neha.
थैंक यू.
Neha, you're not well?
हाँ माता जी.
क्या हुआ?
नथिंग, जस्ट ठीक हूँ.
Okay. Those words which do not describe the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe, are considered by saintly people to be like unto a place of pilgrimage for crows. Since the all-perfect persons are inhabitants of the transcendental abode, they do not derive any pleasure there. So, this verse is talking about that there is even categorization in the animal species, in the animal kingdom. Swans are considered way higher in the birds category than the rest of the birds. That's because of their conduct. Therefore, it's very famous, no? This verse, this doha, that we always give the simile that a hunts, if you give it milk mixed in water, it has the ability to just drink the milk and leave the water behind. It is so pure in its conduct that it can do that. So it actually, swans denote a high level of purity. And therefore, saintly people are always compared to a swan. So this word Paramhamsa comes from a hans. You know that the saintly people are as pure and as self-controlled and as the swan. So its power of discrimination is so high that it can discriminate between milk mixed in water. You know, which I don't think an ordinary person can even think of doing that. I don't think there is even a device that we have invented yet that can do that. So this just shows their high caliber of discrimination. And they're comparing who is the other kind of bird? Crows. So crows and swans are not birds of the same feather, naturally, of course. Because of their, what is the difference? No, it's not about color at all, that one is black and the other is white, hence the white is superior. No. Very clearly, Prabhupada is saying they have very different mental attitudes. Their consciousness is very different. The fruitive workers or passionate men are compared to crows, because a crow is always looking for sense gratification, and it shows no discrimination in choosing the food. You know, he can peck at anything. Whereas the all perfect saintly persons are compared to the swan. They have a lot of self-control, and they will not compromise on what they eat. The crows take pleasure in a place where garbage is thrown out. You will never see a swan there, where garbage is thrown out. Just as the passionate fruitive workers take pleasure in wine and women and places for gross sense pleasure, so the next time you see a very swanky pub or club, we can understand that it's full of crows. Only the crows go to such places. I mean, the Shastra is saying it, not us. Vyasadeva is saying this, right? The swans do not take pleasure in the places where crows are assembled for conferences and meetings. They are instead seen in the atmosphere of natural scenic beauty, where there are transparent reservoirs of water, nicely decorated with stems of lotus flowers and variegated colors of natural beauty. That is the difference between these two classes of birds. I mean, we don't need any further explanation, isn't it? How beautifully Prabhupada has explained the difference between a swan and a crow by their conduct. So the crow-like people, the kind of conducts they have, and the swan-like people, the kind of conduct and mental attitude that they have. Nature has influenced different species of life with different mentalities, and it's not possible to bring them up into the same rank and file. So all men are equal. That whole concept itself, I think, is destroyed here. All are not equal, cannot be equal. The nature accordingly has created the different levels in all the species, including human beings. And it takes all kinds of people to build a society. But the notion that all are equal, yes, we may be equal in that sense that we all belong or are children of the Supreme Lord. Yes, in that way, we are all equal. And all of us have to share the resources given by the Supreme Lord. And all of us have a right to live and enjoy also there, but the similarity ends there. The dissimilarity starts the moment the mental attitudes differ, start changing from one species to another. So, ye yathamam prapadyante, the kind of response you give to life, the kind of attitude with which you live your life will make the difference between the kind of reactions that you get. So, while there is no discrimination on the part of nature, yet there is discrimination on the basis of your own personal conduct, attitude, and consciousness. Fair enough? Similarly, there are different kinds of literature for different kinds of men of different mentalities. Mostly the market literatures which attract men of the crows categories are literatures containing refused remnants of sensuous topics. Whatever the swans refuse goes to the crows. As simple as that. They are generally known as mundane talks in relation with the gross and the subtle body. They are full of subject matter described in decorative language, full of mundane similes and metaphorical arrangements. He's talking about all literature in the society today is sensuous. It is alluring to the attraction between male and female. because this is what attracts people and this is what sells. Correct? Yet, with all that, they don't glorify the Lord. So much talent people have. So much poetic talent. They can really compose poetry. They can really write beautifully. But all that talent is being used for everything except glorifying the Lord. What a shame of waste of talent. I mean, if you want to write about all kinds of sensuous, mundane activities, sure, you can include glorifying the Supreme Lord in that as well. Why not? After all, He has given you that talent and you are enjoying all His resources. Such poetry and prose on any subject matter is considered decoration of a dead body. Decoration of a dead body. Spiritually advanced men who are compared to the swans do not take pleasure in such dead literatures, which are sources of pleasure for men who are spiritually dead. People who just want to enjoy the gross body will find this literature very interesting. But to a spiritualist or a higher intelligent being, this kind of literature appears, what is the word? Disgusting. These literatures in the modes of passion and ignorance are distributed under different labels, but they can hardly help the spiritual urge of the human being. And thus the swan-like spiritually advanced men have nothing to do with it. So these literatures are not able to pacify the disturbed heart of a materialist or of a mundane person. For some time he may get excited, but he's going to go back to his anxiety state, because this is not catering to his spirit. It is only catering to his body. Such spiritually advanced men are called also as manasa, because they always keep up the standard of transcendental, voluntary service to the Lord on the spiritual plane. This completely forbids fruitive activities for gross bodily sense satisfaction or subtle speculation of the material, egoistic mind. So, social literally men, all kinds of categories of people that we see in the society are being covered. So please hear carefully. Social men, all the kathakars, the kavikars, the comedy shows, the writers, and the poets. These are the social literary men. Scientists, mundane poets, theoretical philosophers, and politicians who are completely absorbed in the material advancement of sense pleasure are all dolls of material energy. Such a beautiful language. See. Yes, they're all dolls, but they are dolls of Maya Devi. They take pleasure in a place where rejected subject matters are thrown, just as crows love to sit in garbage piles. They don't mind the stench or the filth and the dirt. Similarly, these kind of materialistic people take pleasure in places which are rejected by swan-like people. According to Swami Sridhar, this is the pleasure of the prostitute hunters. Very strong language. This word has been also written on food, thing that I posted in our group yesterday. And he's using the word again. But literatures which describe the glories of the Lord are enjoyed by the Paramhansas, who have grasped the essence of human activities. So anything that is glorifying the Lord or the devotees of the Lord is milk. And anything that is maybe of the highest quality, but does not include glorification of the Lord or his devotees, is garbage. As simple as that, in one word. So this is a very good barometer for us to judge where we are. If you are still enjoying that kind of literature, at least it helps us to be aware of where we are. We are all on a ladder, progressing step by step. But we don't know where we are, right? Because it's an unending ladder. So these are indications from the Paramhansas on how to judge where you are. If this kind of literature is still attractive to you, or you are spending considerable time on these, then probably we need to work harder or faster on our sadhana. Or we need to be engaged more in seva and sadhu sangha. Make sense? Any questions? Okay, we'll go to the next verse. Anu, do you want to read after me?
No, Krishna, I'm in the bus, Mataji, so I will.
Don't worry, you can mute. Yeah. All right. Anyone? Tadvag visargo janatag viplavo. Vinti, do you want to try?
Yeah, I'm just looking at. Yes. Tadvag visargo janatag viplavo.
Yasmin pratishlokam abadhavati api.
Yasmin prati shlokam vattyapi.
Abadhavati api.
Advatyapi.
Okay. Namani anantasya yasho nikhitaniyat.
Namani anantasya yasho
Ankitaniyat.
nitaniyat.
Shrivanti gayanti grinanti sadhavaha.
Shrimanti gayanti grinanti sadhavaha.
You can read.
On the other hand, that literature which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, forms, pastimes, etc., of the unlimited Supreme Lord is a different creation full of transcendental words directed towards bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest.
Who are thoroughly honest. So, such transcendental literature, the literature that glorifies the Lord, even though imperfectly composed, there may be flaws in its composition, yet it is accepted by the swans. So the swans do not care so much about the grammatical composition or the correctness, the technical correctness of the composition, but they focus on the content. What is it about, rather than how has it been made. So even though if it is imperfectly composed, it is heard, sung, and accepted. Shrinvanti, gayanti, grinanti, sadhavaha. Grinanti means accepted, to accept. Sadhavaha, by the purified men who are very honest. So this means that the first quality of a sadhavaha is honesty. And not just honesty, thoroughly honest. So it's a qualification of the great thinkers to pick up the best, even from the worst. It is said that the intelligent men should pick up nectar from a stock of poison, should accept gold even from a filthy place, should accept a good and qualified wife even from an obscure family, and should accept a good lesson even from a man or from a teacher who comes from the untouchables. So I think it's a very important line. You want to read it again? What's inside the package is more important than the package. The content of the package is more important. Therefore, it is saying that even if it is abadhavati, irregularly composed, yet the swans will accept it. So similarly, a great thinker or a great philosopher, what is his qualification? Like a swan, even from a mixed, homogeneous thing, it has the capability to just take the positives, leave the negatives behind. Just take the milk, leave the water behind. Instead of criticizing, oh, there's water milk mixed in this. So similarly, what do? Like jab Sagar Manthan hua tha. So first came out halahal. But the Mohini Murti form of Vishnu was able to just extract the nectar, leaving the poison out. So they did not, if you want nectar, you will have to go through first the halahal poison and all the other things that came out of it. But the intelligent man will be able to just focus on the nectar and take it out and ignore that the poison are also coming out of it. So he focuses just on the positive. So he can pick up nectar from a stock of poison. If he sees gold, he will also take gold from a filthy place because he's focusing more on the qualities of gold and how it can be used. He accepts a good and qualified wife, even from an obscure family. If the lady has very high qualities, then her background should be ignored. Although at other places they say that a man should accept a wife from an equal background. Yes, but if he sees exceptional qualities in a wife and that she's particularly having a lot of Vaishnav qualities, then her background should be ignored. And he should accept a good lesson even from a teacher who comes from untouchables. Yeah. So there could be prostitutes who have converted to devotees. One can always take good examples from them, like Haridas Thakur and the prostitute who went to break his sadhana. She herself became a devotee. So Haridas Thakur told her that you stay here in this kutia and you preach to all those people who come to you. So from such a person, you can accept, forgetting her past, because now she's a devotee. This is what they're saying, that a good lesson should be accepted, even from an untouchable. Okay? So these are some of the ethical instructions for everyone in every place without exception. Here, time, place, and circumstances don't apply. This is true all the time, every time, with everyone, in every situation. Okay? But a saint is far above the level of an ordinary man. He's always absorbed in glorifying the Supreme Lord, because by broadcasting the holy name and fame, the polluted atmosphere of the world will change. And as a result of propagating the literatures like Bhagavatam, people will become sane in their transactions. I think every word of this purport is worth reading twice. Does anyone want to explain what they've understood from this? Just read this line again. Would you sign, Karna? Okay. So what is he saying? just by glorifying the Lord, what we are doing right now, what we are doing with Rath Yatras, what we are doing by book distribution, that's nothing but glorifying the holy name. Just by glorifying the Supreme Lord, because by broadcasting the holy name and fame, the polluted atmosphere of the world can change. Don't think कि आपकी ये किताब देने से क्या होगा. Every action is going towards dispelling the pollution which is rampant in the atmosphere. And people become sane in their transactions. What do we mean by this? People become sane in their transactions.
The importance given to material things, that is, people are these days people are mad about material possessions, and because of that that insanity is there, because everybody wants to grab as much as possible. So the more the Krishna consciousness spreads, the more that clinging to material possessions will be reduced, and people will not run after their material achievements, and in that process I think the world will become better, because most of the problems are because of this, because everybody is just running after
So an attitude correction happens.
attitude.
A consciousness correction happens.
Yes.
Yes, Raiji.
There'll be more swans than crows, or transition of crows into swans.
Absolutely. And that world will be a cleaner, more serene place to live in, where there are more swans. For one, they don't make noise. They're peaceful. So your environment will change. So when you see something happening in the society, don't think that it's not your problem. You know, it's happening for them, but it's happening in your neighborhood, and it is going to affect you sooner or later. So it is your problem.
But there is one question in my mind, like the deterioration with time has started happening during the time of Parikshit Maharaj Ji. Like it was like Kali himself, he found it difficult to find a place where to get into in Maharaj Parikshit's life. And he was so pure, and his kingdom was so pure that Kali was not able to find a place. But it comes, that is, he said that it is Lord's what we say,
Arrangement.
yeah, that Kali will come and this will happen. So nobody could stop. Even Parikshit Maharaj Ji could not stop from Kali coming, and that deterioration in time is anyways happening. So,
But they have given the greatest benediction to Kali Yuga. What is Kali Yuga? The greatest benediction? Harer Nam, Harer Nam, Harer Namaiva Kevalam, Kalau, Nastev, 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 Gatiranyatha. So we simply have to propagate this message, and all the swan-like people will immediately understand this and start moving towards this. So there is hope even for the unfortunate people of Kali Yuga. There's a big hope, and it's easier in Kali Yuga than it was in Satya Yuga or Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga. Because the ask is very minimal. Just chant the holy names of the Lord, hear his glorification, and read his glorifications, and serve his devotees. I mean, how easy can it get than this? In Satyug, they had to be in meditation for 60,000 years out of their 1 lakh timeline. They had a life of 1 lakh years. They had to be in meditation for 70,000 years. In Treta, they had to go through elaborate havans and yagyas. Very difficult, a lot of austerity. So this benedict, for every age, there is a way out. There is a benediction. So we just have to inspire ourselves and our brothers and sisters around us to move towards that. Because if they don't come, it's going to be difficult for us too, because we need a peaceful environment. Does that answer your question?
Yes, Mataji, because we need a conducive environment to even do it ourselves.
So prachar is very important. While achar hi prachar hai, but still it's in our best interest that we preach. Yeah? Okay.
Mataji, I had a question. Can
Yes.
I ask?
Yeah, sure.
Where do the Mayavads fit in? Because would you classify them as crows or would you classify them as swans?
Atheists. Prabhupada clearly puts them in the atheistic category only.
Okay, so crows then. Okay. Okay.
Well, anybody who is not glorifying the Lord, there are only two categories. Either you're glorifying the Lord or you're not. Now we are not going into the subcategories at all. So it's very simple. He's just given one broad category. Whatever is being used to glorify the Lord is saintly, and whatever talent, it could be the highest talent, not being used to glorify the Lord is mundane. So while preparing this commentary on this particular stanza of Srimad Bhagavatam, we have a crisis before us. So when Prabhupada is writing this, doing this translation, there was a world crisis at that time, and he has put that into the purport. Our neighboring friend China has attacked the border of India with a militaristic spirit. This is 1972, the war. We have practically no business in the political field. Yet we see that previously there were both China and India, and they both lived peacefully for centuries without ill feeling. The reason is that they lived those days in an atmosphere of God consciousness, and every country over the surface of the world was God-fearing, pure-hearted, and simple. And there was no question of political diplomacy because the goal was one. All of them were worshipping the Lord in their own way. So there could be different methods and ways, but the goal was one. Hence, there was no competition, no envy, no greed to grab the neighboring country's land or resources or people. So there is no cause of quarrel. There was no cause of quarrel between China and India over land, which is not very suitable for habitation. And certainly there is no cause for fighting on this issue. What land is China fighting for India today? Those snow-clad mountains where nobody can live, nothing can grow, but still he's fighting. He's using Sam, Dam, Dand, Bhed to grab that land. Yene kene prakarene. Why? Because our goal has changed. Glorifying the Lord is no longer a priority for the leadership, world leadership today. But due to the age of quarrel, Kali, which we have discussed, there is always a chance of quarrel on the slightest provocation because tolerance has gone down, adjustment has gone down. So even on small matters, countries are willing to fight, although it is so expensive. So expensive, there's a big cost to pay for human life, for resources. This is due to not the issue in question, but due to the polluted atmosphere of this age. Systematically, there is propaganda by a section of people to stop glorification of the name and fame of the Supreme Lord. There is a systematic propagation on how to cut down the religious sentiments of the people and make them more materialist. Why? Because materialism is running the economy today. It's a consumer-driven economy. Buy this, buy that. अब सब भजन करने बैठ जाएंगे, कोई बाजार ही नहीं जाएगा खरीदने, तो इकोनॉमी कैसे चलेगी? So the leaders are not happy कि लोग भजन करें. Therefore, they are trying to de-glorify, underplay the importance of religion. Therefore, there is a great need for disseminating the message of Srimad Bhagavatam all over the world. It's the duty of every responsible Indian to broadcast the message of Srimad Bhagavatam throughout the world, to do all the supermost good, as well as to bring about the desired peace in the world. There's a direct relation between our consciousness and the peace of the world. And what is the peace formula given in the Bhagavad Gita? 5.29. World peace formula. Bhoktaram Yagyatapasam
Sarvaloka Maheshwaram
Suhridam
Suhridam Sarvabhutanam Yatva Mam Shantim Richati.
Shantim Richati. Clearly, he is giving you a peace formula. Yet people are running around. Baithak ho rahi hai, conferences ho rahi hai, United Nations baith raha hai. Peace kaise laye, peace kaise laye. It's given Bhagavad Gita 5.29. Just do it. Shantim Richati. He's firmly declaring Shanti isi se phail jayegi. But they are not willing to pay the price. Because India has failed in her duty by neglecting this responsible work, there is so much quarrel and trouble all over the world. Please make a note in your notebooks, not on the Srimad Bhagavatam, but in your notebooks. India has failed in her duty. This means we are the spiritual leaders of the world, and it is our duty to spread this message. The entire peace of the whole world depends on this Vedic country. And who is India? What do we mean by India? Who's India?
People of this country.
Who are they? You and me.
Yes, we and you.
Me, I. That India means I. The finger is at me. We stop looking at ye karega, wo karega, nahi government ka job hai, nahi iska job hai, nahi temple ka job hai. No, it's my job. I take responsibility for what I can at least contribute and do. Correct? It's not that, no, it's his job and then we don't have, and yet when we want resources, we expect that to come from the government, from the society, from the RWAs. So we have failed the world. We have failed our duty by neglecting this responsibility. Therefore, there is so much quarrel and trouble all over the world. We are confident that if by the transcendental message of Bhagavatam is received only by the leading men of the world, certainly there will be a change of heart and naturally the people in general will follow them. So the leadership needs to be spiritualized. Yad yad acharati shreshthas tad tad eve taro janaha. What does it mean? Whatever the important people do, the common men just copy and follow. So if the leadership starts following a spiritual life, automatically the janta will become jaisa raja vaisi praja. Correct? So it is our responsibility to take this message, which is what Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj is doing. All the leadership, what are they doing? Look at what is Radhanath Swami Maharaj doing. He's giving sessions in the parliament in UK. Our leaders are reaching the parliaments, the ministries, the governors, the MLAs, film stars, because these are the people that our youth is following. Film star ki puja karte hain. You know, who are breaking all the 4 regulative principles. All the 4 regulative principles. Meat eating, illicit sex, intoxication, gambling. सब कुछ करते हैं. 4 स्तंभ जिस पे धर्म खड़ा है और हम उनकी पूजा करते हैं. हमारा यूथ इनको फॉलो कर रहा है. There are talk shows and coffee shows with them. These are the people who we should approach with the Bhagavad Gita. They did that with Hema Malini. Today she chants verses. Bhagavad Gita verses. She's learning. She's also doing her own Bhakti Shastri. So whatever she does, at least her fans will also follow. Some devotee took the trouble to go and preach to her. The mass of people in general are tools in the hands of modern politicians and leaders of the people. How true is that? 90% of the people are just followers. Bhed hai. Bhed chal kyun bolte hain? Because 90% of the people don't use their brains to just follow the popular trend. With a few, the leaders whom they follow, if those change, automatically the bhed also changes, isn't it? So if there is a change of heart of the leaders only, certainly there will be a radical change in the atmosphere of the world. We know that our honest attempt to present this great literature conveying transcendental messages for reviving the God consciousness of the people in general and re-spiritualizing the world atmosphere is fraught with many difficulties. Our presenting this matter in adequate language, especially a foreign language, will certainly fail, But there will be so many literary discrepancies despite our honest attempt to present it in the proper way. So Prabhupada is acknowledging there could be mistakes in the printing of this Bhagavatam, Gita, and all the literatures that the BBT presses. But that doesn't matter because the crux of the matter is pure. He says, don't wait till everything is perfect and pure and nice. It won't happen because we are living in Kali Yuga. And we're trying to convert Sanskrit verses into language, an English language, and this language is so unscientific. Sare, isme English language mein swar bhi nahi hai sare. There is no word as pha. The pa varga, pa, pha, ba, bha, ma, pha naam ka koi शब्द ही नहीं है इंग्लिश लैंग्वेज में. तो संस्कृत के वर्सेस अंग्रेजी में कैसे समझाओगे लोगों को? लेकिन ये डिफिकल्ट काम भी करना पड़ रहा है क्योंकि अदरवाइज हाउ विल यू प्रीच टू द इंग्लिश स्पीकिंग वर्ल्ड? So even if there are discrepancies in translating from this Devanagari script, the pure high quality language spoken by the Devi Devtas, Sanskrit की बातें अगर हम इंग्लिश में भी ट्रांसलेट कर रहे हैं और in between translations में the message is not getting translated as of the same level and caliber, doesn't matter. At least the message is going there. And it is bringing a change in the people. Just see how many people are now adopting Vedic culture in the West. Why? Because this literature reached them. They don't know Sanskrit still, neither do they know Hindi, but वो English में ही ये ग्रंथ पढ़ के बदल रहे हैं. But we are sure that with all our faults in this connection, the seriousness of the subject matter will be taken into consideration and the leaders of the society will still accept this due to its being an honest attempt to glorify the Almighty Lord. So again, honesty is the best policy. When they see the sincerity and the honesty behind the work, the discrepancies in translation will be overlooked. Fair point? When there is fire in a house, the inmates of the house go out to get help from the neighbors who may be foreigners. And yet, without knowing the language, the victims of the fire express themselves. And the neighbors understand the need, even though not expressed in the same language. What a nice point. Supposing इस वक्त आप जैसे विनीता उमा हमारी सिंगापुर में है. Supposing भगवान न करे, it will never happen. Don't worry, huh, Vinu? Just a hypothetical situation that there is fire in her, and there is a. What is your local language there?
Mandarin.
Mandarin. Okay. Now Chinese.
Chinese, yeah.
Local language of
Mandarin.
Singapore.
Yeah, one of the regional languages is Mandarin.
Okay.
Tamil is also local language of it.
Okay. So if her house is on fire, if she goes and bangs the door of the Chinese neighbor without knowing a single word of Chinese and without the Chinese neighbor knowing a single word of Hindi or even English, she will be able to communicate that, look, there is something wrong in my house and I need help. So there is no need to stress on the purity or the correctness, the grammatical correctness of any work that is being composed, as long as it's conveying the message and the urgency of the message. And as long as it is honest and sincere. Because surely when she goes and talks to her neighbor's not going to think that, oh, she's acting, she's not honest. Her sincerity and her honesty in explaining her situation is going to get her the help without knowing language. Isn't that a very valid point? Practical point Prabhupada is giving. This same spirit of cooperation is needed to broadcast this transcendental message of Bhagavatam throughout the polluted atmosphere of the world. Prabhupada is just saying, if you just focus on being honest and sincere, don't worry कि दुनिया में ये ठीक नहीं है, वो ठीक नहीं है, आपको पूरी तरह आता नहीं है, आप पूरी तरह जानते नहीं हो शास्त्र को, आप पढ़ नहीं पाए हो अभी, तो मैं कैसे preach करूंगा? Your honesty and your sincerity can be grasped by the other person, even if you do not know, you're not an expert in this subject matter. Purity attracts. So all we need is a sincere desire. ये हम कर सकते हैं, definitely. We don't have to be a pandit, but we can be sincere and we can be honest. Correct? Very valid point. Hence, all of us have to preach. Hence, because we are in India, we are the Vedic spiritual leaders of the world, and each one of us has a responsibility. Each one, teach one. Each one, preach one. This is the logo given by Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj. After all, it's a technical science of spiritual values. And thus we are concerned with the techniques, not with the language. How practical. He's removing all our excuses and all our doubts. If the techniques of this great literature are understood by the people of the world, there will be success. And he has proved it. There is success. There are so many Chinese devotees today, so many Japanese devotees. When there are too many materialistic activities by the people in general all over the world, there is no wonder that a person or a nation attacks another person or nation on the slightest provocation. Why? Because sense gratification is the goal. Enjoyment is the goal of one leadership and one country. So naturally, for enjoyment, he will want to grab his neighbor's resources as well because he wants to enjoy. When he sees that his neighbor has more resources than his country, he will attack that neighbor for no rhyme or reason, even if that neighbor is peace-loving and friendly. Because the goal has changed now. That is the rule of this age of Kali or quarrel, because the people are materialistic, hence they will fight. The atmosphere is already polluted with corruption of all description, and everyone knows it well. There are so many unwanted literatures full of materialistic ideas of sense grad. On top, we have such materialistic literature which we are feeding to our youth, our young generation, to make them more and more materialistic. So much junk literature out in the world. In many countries, there are bodies appointed by the state to detect and censor obscene literature. This means that neither the government nor the responsible leaders of the public want such literature. Yet it is in the marketplace because people want it for sense gratification. Iska matlab, the world leadership is not able to control it, right? The police is not able to control it. But why is there a market? Because there is demand. The people in general want to read. This is a natural instinct, another very important point. Every human being wants to read. It is a natural instinct. This means to satisfy this urge to read, he will look. He will look here and there on what to read, what to read. Because like thirst, it is just a need, like thirst. Automatically you will look for water. Hunger, automatically you will look for food. Similarly, this desire to read is there in everybody. Automatically they look, kya padhu, kya padhu. And if the right literature is not out there, what's happening? It's a time bomb waiting to explode. How crucial it is to put the right literature also out there, because everybody is reading. And if you're not feeding them the right read, but because their minds are polluted, they want such literatures. Under the circumstances, transcendental literatures like Bhagavatam will not only diminish the activities of the corrupt mind of the people in general, but also it will supply food for their hankering after reading some interesting literature. So उनकी जो रीड करने की प्यास और भूख है, भागवतम से वो शांत हो जाएगी. That materialism जो दहक रही है अंदर, on I want more, I want to enjoy, that will pacify. And when that pacifies, won't the world also become a pacifying, peaceful place? If every person's heart is pacified. In the beginning, they may not like it because one suffering from jaundice is reluctant to take sugar candy. But we should know that sugar candy is the only remedy for jaundice. Do you know this? अगर आपको jaundice है, पी लिया है, उसका आपको पता है remedy क्या है, उसकी medicine क्या है? गुड़ खिलाते हैं, मीठा खिलाते हैं. और उस समय क्योंकि वो liver इतना खराब होता है, इतना diseased होता है कि वो गुड़ कड़वा लगता है, नीम जैसा, करेले जैसा लगता है. तो जो पेशेंट है उसको थूकता रहता है कि नहीं, बहुत कड़वा है, बहुत कड़वा है. पर डॉक्टर क्या करता है? थोड़ा थोड़ा फिर भी उसको फोर्स करता है, अच्छा थोड़ा सा खा लो, जस्ट टेक अ बाइट, जस्ट टेक अ बाइट। और वो एक एक बाइट जो वो गुड़ की ले रहा है, उससे उसका लिवर प्योरीफाई हो रहा है, क्लीन हो रहा है। और सफिशिएंटली जब वो उसको खा लेता है, और लिवर सफिशिएंटली अगर 25-30% भी अगर लिवर रिकवर हो जाता है डिजीज से, तो वही गुड़ मीठा लगना शुरू हो जाता है। डू यू नो दिस? Similarly, right now everybody is diseased. They want mundane literature, so they will find Bhagavatam very kadwa. But अगर ये थोड़ा थोड़ा एक एक श्लोक, एक एक लाइन भी अगर उनके कानों में थोड़ी थोड़ी पढ़नी शुरू हो जाए, the purification or the healing of that disease will start. Such a nice, powerful example. So there is effort in the beginning to spread this literature, because everybody has jaundice and they will consider it very bitter. But as our duty, we have to go through that process of administering it, knowing fully well and expecting that it will not be accepted initially. Similarly, let there be systematic propaganda for popularizing the reading of Gita and Bhagavatam, which will act like sugar candy for the jaundice-like condition of sense gratification. When men have a taste for this literature, the other literatures, which are catering poison to society, will automatically cease. Automatically, they will cease. 2 minutes. We are sure, therefore, that everyone in human society will welcome Srimad Bhagavatam, even though it is now presented with so many faults. For it is recommended by Sri Narad, who has very kindly appeared in this chapter. Very bold. So just read this last para, and then we can take questions if you have any. Okay? Today only 2 verses. I'll just attend to some business and then I'll get back. Somebody can summarize what we did today. And if you have any questions, we'll take that.
Should I stop the recording?
Yeah, yes, dear. Sure.